Ladies and gentlemen, this is CVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. Let's dive into yet another chapter of As the Kremlin Turns. This week, investigative journalist Andrei Zakharov finds himself on Russia's most wanted list. Why, you ask? Well, because he did the unthinkable. He discovered the mysterious third daughter of Vladimir Putin. Yes, you heard that right. Putin's secret progeny, Luisa Rozova, also known as Elizaveta Krivodnogich. Now, Elizaveta's story reads like a modern-day fairy tale, if fairy tales were written by George Orwell. Her mother, Svetlana, was just an ordinary cleaner living in a communal apartment in St. Petersburg in the 90s, and then, as if by magic, she meets Putin and becomes a multimillionaire. She now owns a ski resort and property in Monaco. It's Cinderella, but with more oligarchs and fewer glass slippers. Zakharov, armed with nothing but curiosity and a sharp pen, unraveled the story. His reward? A spot on Russia's most wanted list. The Moscow Times broke the news, reminding us all that in Russia, journalism is a bit like playing Russian roulette with just a few empty chambers. What's particularly striking is the uncanny resemblance between Putin and his alleged daughter, so much so that she rarely posted pictures on social media, often hiding her face. Anyway, here's a tip. If you're in Russia and thinking about exposing state secrets, maybe consider a safer career, like, I don't know, lion taming. Now let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of Russian diplomacy, which is a bit like trying to negotiate with a bear that's both hibernating and trying to maul you all at the same time. So, Lavrov claims that Russia is ready to talk peace regarding Ukraine and European security. Oh, and they'll be insisting on including safeguards against double interpretation in any future security agreement. Because yes, the real problem here is ambiguity, not the whole invasion and bombing thing.
И каждый раз, когда удается зафиксировать какие-то понимания с обоюдного согласия, каждый раз эти понимания разрушаются. Не нами, украинцами и их хозяевами. Поэтому президент Путин не раз говорил, в том числе совсем недавно, мы готовы обсуждать проблемы безопасности в Европе. Конечно, учитывая необходимость устранения первопричин, и, конечно же, учитывая необходимость обеспечить законные интересы безопасности России. Не в ущерб чьим-то интересам безопасности.
Meanwhile, in the theater of the absurd, we have Ivan Oholbestin, a man who apparently missed a memo on basic human decency. He recently declared that Ukraine should not exist, and that Ukrainians are not the same Russians, but Nazis. But don't worry, he generously added that this doesn't mean that they need to kill all Ukrainian. How very reassuring. It's like saying, maybe just a little bit of genocide? Oholbestin also insists that Russia can't abandon Ukrainians who oppresses all things Russian. Ah, yes, because nothing says liberation like destroying cities and displacing millions.
Украина не должна существовать, но это не значит, что мы должны уничтожить украинцев. Это логичная часть нас. У меня товарищ есть англичан, он говорит, ну слушай, я не могу различить русского от украинца. Чем они отличаются? Я говорю, ну ничем вообще. Украинцы те же самые русские, просто нацисты.
So yeah, we're looking at a diplomatic efforts laced with threats and propaganda spewing hate. It's almost like they're reading from a playbook titled How to Lose Friends and Influence No One. Let's talk about Belarus, the charmingly misguided neighbor of Europe, which has decided to open its doors not just to Western tourists, but also to Russian drones and missiles. In a dazzling display of diplomacy, President Alexander Lukashenko has announced that from July 19 to December 31st of 2024, Belarus will have a visa-free regime for citizens of 35 European countries through all land checkpoints. Normally, Europeans could only visit without a visa if they flew in, but now, Lukashenko is saying, come on, come all by land too. And let's show everyone how peaceful and neighborly we really can be. But here's the twist. While welcoming Western tourists with open arms, Belarus is also warmly embracing Russian military technology. Just this week, a Russian Shahed drone, after causing havoc in Kyiv, decided to take a detour and exploded 55 kilometers from the Bobruisk in the Gomel region. And let's not forget, Russia has made it clear that it can't leave Ukrainians alone who oppresses everything Russian, so naturally Belarus is the perfect staging ground for their noble cause. So then there you have it. Belarus, a country where you can enjoy a visa-free trip to explore beautiful landscape, rich culture, and if you're lucky, witness the occasional Russian military mishap. It's a twisted version of all-inclusive vacation with more authoritarianism and unexpected explosions. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister and a man who looks like he's permanently sucking on a lemon, announced that Russia is ready for negotiations about Ukraine and European security. Russia, the country that invaded Ukraine, is now eager to chat about peace and security. That's like an arsonist offering to negotiate fire safety measures. Lavrov insists that any future European security agreement must include safeguards against double standards. They'll be meticulously watching the wording and guarantees, because Russia has such a stellar track record with international agreements. And while Lavrov is talking about protecting Russian speakers from imaginary oppression in Ukraine, back home, a state TV is busy drawing up maps for nuclear strikes on Europe. Yes, these propagandists are casually discussing how 3 missiles will be enough to bring down Britain's civilization, because nothing says we're serious about peace like planning Armageddon on primetime television.
Несложно предположить географию ответа в случае, если короткий пресс-релиз Белого дома станет реальностью. Под угрозой без малого все европейские столицы, если наши ракеты встанут в Калининграде, Берлин, Варшава, все Прибалты, Париж, Бухарест, Прага. Конечно, американские базы в Германии, Гармии Шпартенкирхен, казармы Патча, Шпангдалем, Рамштайн. Особое внимание Британии, нашему традиционному врагу, так как против нее будет работать значительная часть Северного флота. Под удар Вашингтон ставит не только Лондон, но и Манчестер, Бирмингем, крупнейшую военно-морскую базу Девонпорт, Клайд в Шотландии, где король хранит ядерные ракеты «Трайдент», Портсмут и Чатамскую верфь в графстве Кент. Британия в самом уязвимом положении. В принципе, достаточно 3 ракет, и эта цивилизация рухнет.
Recap. Russia wants to negotiate peace while simultaneously broadcasting their fantasy of nuking Europe. They might as well come to a peace conference holding a live grenade. It's almost adorable how delusional they are if it weren't so terrifyingly reckless. But hey, let's give credit for one thing. They sure know how to keep us entertained with their spectacularly twisted sense of diplomacy. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.